Hello and welcome to the all-new call-in show, Belief Battles, a weekly show ready to take your calls about religion, atheism, and secularism, featuring co-hosts, atheist and international VTuber Teo el Ateo, and Mark Peralta, an ex-evangelical pastor, now atheist. So without further ado, Belief Battles.
Call 866-696-6698.
How I love this music. Wait.
What's up, everybody?
What
We
did I
are
do? Yes, we are, but I made a small mistake. Give me 1 second.
That's right.
Okay, things like this tend to happen.
Go.
There it is. For some reason, I put the screen backwards. Live show, people. We're streaming on live, so these type of things are going to happen. Now you see my beautiful name, Teo el Ateo, and my co-host, Apostate of Mind. Wait, I am the co-host. I have no idea, really. But this is so cool. Finally, we're starting this channel, dude. Finally, we are here talking to people in English. I mean, we only like, we really like English, but what can we do? We really like Spanish, but what can we do? Sorry, there is a small issue with you in the line. Make sure, please, Mr. Peralta, that you are as a host, just to make sure that everything is clear and you can hear the host. The hosting.
Okay.
Oh, wait, it doesn't matter. We're going to hear it anyways. I remember that we're just, guys, it's been so crazy. We have spending hours trying to fix this. It's been a nightmare, but it's going to work. I'm sure it's going to work. So remember, here we finally have our number 1-866-96-6698. Now I want to say that in a different way. 18-666-9666-19. No, 98. Oh, what's wrong with me? And
We're so lucked out with that number. Like, we went through several lists of options and we're like, that's it. That's the number.
That is the perfect number. Why don't you say it, Mark? I'm sure that for you it's going to be better.
1-866-696-6698.
Why do you make it so beautiful? I love it. Close to 6666, maybe. Very close. That was the idea.
We need one more trinity of triple sixes in there.
So if any...
we could say that's enough for now.
Enough 6 for now. Yeah, we still want believers to call us. So people, the show is called Belief Battles. We want to battle your beliefs. We want to know what you think and why. We are going to be here waiting for your calls. And in the meantime, I'm so happy to see all the people who are joining us already. Please,
there?
guys, if you... What?
It kind of broke up a little bit.
I am still here. Don't worry. And people, you can call us. I want to say hi to Skeptic Haven, right? Can you read their name?
Skeptic Haven?
Skeptic Haven. So thank you, guys. You are awesome, and I'm so happy that you are here, people. And yes, let's start. If we don't have calls yet, let's start by with the comments of people, because here we have some interesting things. We have someone from Ecuador. Very interesting. The Ecuador Republic. That's very good. Nathan asks, are there only going to be English-speaking fellows? I mean, I'm sure we will have people speaking from any other speaking country, but the official language is going to be English. So the idea is going to be, come here. If you want to speak, do it, but you have to speak in English. Can we use Spanish albures here? Try to keep it in English, please. That's what I would think. Yeah. That would be the best thing.
Albur, that's like that's like being that's like sarcasm. It's a form of sarcasm comedy. I think that's what he's talking about.
Oh, I should ban Nathan. Give me 1 second. He wants to give us this slogan: in Satan we trust. Dude, that would just make you another believer. So why would you believe in a myth? And let me see, what else do we have? Oh, this would be a terrible idea. Call a pastor, then you make a prank telling him that his son has the demon of homosexuality. That's evil. Come on. We are not going to do that. But now that we are here with this, dear Mark, why don't we tell people why we're doing this? Why do we have this show? What can you tell us about this idea? This
I
awesome
mean,
idea.
yeah, I think that we've come to become very, very passionate about putting this together in order to allow for people to have a space where they feel comfortable calling us. And I'm referring more so the theists, your typical believer that is perhaps in the process of becoming deconstructed from religion, or feels like they could use someone else to talk to and have asked the hard questions about theology and the why this and all the reasons why uh, you might still be lingering, you might still be holding on to, is what I'm trying to say, to some religious belief, and you want to put that to the test. Well, that's what we want to do, and it's coming out of us interacting with so many people already through the Facebook page and during our lives in Spanish, that I guess I personally fell in love with the opportunity of engaging people in a way that we're not just like bashing at each other, or it's like trolling each other in the comments, where it can easily become that. Like, I feel like when we're doing our lives, you can see that people like to interact, but they're doing it in a way that is just not good. They're just like yelling at each other. So hopefully we can provide that space here where people feel safe, like I said, to put their beliefs to the test and show us, why do you believe in God? What reasons do you have? What is your evidence? And maybe even convince us if you can.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Imagine us becoming believers because somebody actually proved that their God is their real God. That could be quite interesting and something that I would love to see. And well, I guess another reason why we're doing this is because apparently people in English, they are more willing to engage in debates. People in Spanish, they still see that as a taboo, something to avoid, something bad. Like, we do have this idea that, oh yeah, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about soccer, we don't talk about religion. But in the USA especially, people feel more entitled to say that their religion is the right one, so they really want to tell you and explain to you that why you're wrong and why you should be a Christian, different from, and that why you shouldn't be different from them. So that's another reason why we're doing this.
That's
So
right.
yeah, today I'm not sure we will have many calls, if we ever get to have one, but dear public, dear atheists, if you want to say hi, please call to 1-8666-9666-98, and that would be very interesting. Yeah, we would love to try and test our new system that we're using in order to get calls. It was hard to it was hard to get used to it, so let's hope everything works. And yeah, sorry, somebody sent me a message and that distracted me. So please, guys, if you can, that would be awesome.
For sure. Meanwhile, I guess we can maybe do some introductions for those of us that are just not learning about this, not just the channel, but also who we are.
Oh
Would you
yeah,
care to introduce yourself, Teo?
sure. Why do I feel that I can speak with people about their beliefs? Why do I think that I can talk about these things? And why am I so cute? I'm so cute because I'm more cartoonish than most people, and that keeps me young and awesome. I think that I can talk about different ideas because I love learning about this stuff. My name is Teo el Ateo. As you can see, that is in English. You can call me Teo if you want. And my background is a religious one. I became an atheist because I loved studying and learning about religions. My parents are either, one of them was a Catholic person, the other one was an evangelical person. And in the end, I decided that I wanted to study on my own with the Jehovah Witnesses. And in the end, I started to realize how everything contradicted each other. All the religions contradicted each other. How the Bible was being used by different people to talk about exactly the same stuff. So that made me realize that, hey, maybe religions are not as good if the Jehovah Witnesses, the ones who I think are the real religion, prefer to murder children instead of going against something that they think the Bible might say about blood. I don't think this is the right thing. And later I learned something about science, and that was the final nail on the coffin. And now I'm here talking about why I don't believe in so many things. And I have a small channel that is starting to grow, in which I have several sections where we decide to talk about these things. Before we go with your amazing background, dear Mark, do you mind if we take the first call that we have in here?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it looks like we do have our first caller. I'm not sure if he's a theist. He could be. He could be a theist pretending to be an atheist, but maybe not.
No, he's not. I'm going to. Oh, can you hear him? Dear Raphael, are you there? Mark, can you hear him?
No, I can't really hear him.
Oh, damn it! We spent the whole morning trying to fix this. Okay, why this? Why isn't this working? Um, well, dear Raphael, Mark cannot hear you. I can hear you. I have no idea if people in the chat can hear you. So thank you for being our guinea pig today. This should be working perfectly, but it's not. Dear chat, can you hear our wonderful and amazing Rafael Tapia? And please, Rafael, tell us something about yourself in the meantime. Oh, okay. I think I know what the problem is. I'm so sorry, dear Rafa. Let's try this once again. Can you introduce yourself again, please? And sorry, I'm doing this.
Okay, no problem. Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Tapia, and I'm calling this show to, congratulate Teo and Mark for this wonderful show that it's starting. I hope everyone gets a really nice day or, stream view and good calls.
Thank you so much. Tell me that we can hear him now.
No, I cannot hear Mark. I can only hear you, Teo.
I didn't really
Oh,
say anything, but you do sound great. He sounds beautiful. For those of
well,
you who
he's.
don't know who Rafa Tapia is, he is the
I don't
host
know
of
if it
this.
has to do with Skype. Maybe I should try with a landline.
Oh, no. It was a mistake from our part. Apparently, only I am as the host in the line right now. And Apostate of mine, he can hear you now. Mark, Rafa, Mark can hear you, but you cannot hear him because
Okay.
only I am as a host, and that was a small mistake that we didn't think of before we started this show. So thank you, Rafa, for being here with us. Thank you for being so awesome. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
any final words before we let you go? Because I don't think we will be debating you, unless you want to debate something that you and I or you and Mark would disagree on.
Oh, do we? Are we? Well, we do argue about some things. I'm a strong atheist, so since you're pretty much an agnostic atheist, we can disagree in the thing that I'm just saying that I can. Well, one can demonstrate God can't exist in certain ways or different ways, and will you have a position like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as long as you have a good, I don't know, epistemic position in which you just don't believe stuff that are not believable.
That's why we adore you so much, Rafa. You are amazing. So in here, Alma is saying that you are our favorite from La Cantidad del Ateo.
Thank you.
And yes, so people love you. Nathan is saying that he loves you as well on his
Oh,
Nathanic way. And for people who don't know, people who don't know Rafael Tapia, he has his own channel in Spanish as well, and he has been with me in several shows. including some shows from Skeptic Haven. There we have been together with Global Atheists, another program that you can watch if you want, people. And yes, it's cool. So thank you, Rafa. You are an amazing guy, and I love you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as I said in a few lines ago, like I'm really proud of this. This is wonderful, Teo and Mark. I think this endeavor is great. We need more voices that can have like nuanced discussions. I guess belief battles is about nuanced discussion instead of an actual battle. You're not fighting people. You may be fighting beliefs or wrong beliefs, which I think. I agree completely.
Thank you, sir. You are absolutely amazing, and I love your first words, Rafa. It's awesome having you here, and being with you in here. It's an amazing start.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, people, if you're watching right now and you have people you know in the U.S. or other parts in the world that speak in English and want to talk about what they believe and why, as they said, call now at 1-866-696-6698. And, well, you're going to enjoy a good conversation.
Love you, Rafa. Thank you so much. And I love how everybody can read the number but me. And I was so keen on this number. Perfect. So, in the meantime, well, later if we have another caller. Now I still try to get into the modding thing, Mark. We need you. And Mark, why don't you introduce yourself? Why is it Apostate of Mind your name? Why Mark? Why are you with me here? What is happening here? What's going on?
Sure. Well, I'm Mark Peralta. Some of you might already know me from either Nuestra Experiencia Atea and my involvement there, where I appear in a couple of segments. I'm very grateful to you and for the whole team to provide that um, avenue for me. I came from evangelical Christianity, although I was raised in a very Catholic family in South America. I went to Catholic school from the very beginning, like elementary school. I was already in the Catholic doctrine, taking catechesis on a weekly basis, attending mass during school, and all that. And it was not until I was in America where I was exposed to the evangelical church and became really attracted to the evangelical Christianity, form of Christianity that was sort of absent from saints and all that sort of stuff that seemed very silly to me when I was growing up. But nonetheless, I still had my belief in that, God is Trinity and Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, as they teach you in Catholic school. And then as an adult, I sort of gave up on Catholicism and then started attending an evangelical church where I became rebaptized as an adult, as they profess that you should, and engaged in that Christian life, leading groups, serving in church. I was so passionate for learning theology because you'd sit there in the pews and the pastor's like throwing a Greek word or something, agape or something. You're like, what is he saying? That's a foreign. Oh, so the Bible was written in a different language. So what is it really saying? And so I became interested in Bible college, and like almost right away, I joined Bible college. And shortly thereafter, I'm like graduating with a Bible degree from like a mainstream, or not mainstream, but it was a Baptist university, Dallas Baptist University. And I remember senior year, because I had a double major. I double majored. I did both biology and Bible, and minored in chemistry. I was really on track for going to dental school because I've been working in dentistry as an assistant. I worked in labs. I've done lots of stuff related to dental. And so I was on track for becoming a dentist and had done all my prerequisites to be accepted and everything. And senior year, I was like faced with, the decision. Where am I going to go from here? Like after college. And that's when I joined the Dallas Seminary. So I went to Dallas Theological Seminary and pursued a degree in Bible studies, um, to become a professor. And there, long story short, on my in the last year upon graduation, I took a job as a pastor for kind of a mega church here in Dallas in a Hispanic ministry as an associate pastor. Um, and lasted for about a year, and it just didn't work at all. And I had already all this experience working in like healthcare, and I was like, this is a really weird environment. I'm not really enjoying working with church people. Like a lot goes on in here that I just don't feel comfortable with. Like a lot of these things are just weird, like very cultish, and like started questioning things. And I mean, I was actually fired as a pastor. I tell my whole story in Midvision. He had me on for an interview, but I can get into it. I was fired, and I was asked by the clergy to lie that I was being fired, and I was asked. And it's not just like they said, "Oh, say this." No, they put it on paper. They were like, "Hey, Mike, when you do your thing, you're gonna have to say this. You can't say this other thing." And I was just like, "Okay."
Say
And
what?
I went with it. I went with it. I actually read the little expert that was having me admit that I was resigning because I wanted to pursue other interests that were church unrelated. When I was not, I was being let go because they wanted to hire a worship pastor that was going to be more costly, and they couldn't afford me and them. And they asked me to stay and continue serving, but I was like, I can't. I uprooted my family from this city, and now I'm here. We bought a house. We rebuilt our lives in this church community, and a year later, you telling me that you now can't afford me and that I should continue, but pro bono? And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Um, so it was just really silly, and that's when I began to question, um, whether or not it wasn't a God thing, but it was more like, is the church the right thing? Is what we're doing in church the biblical thing? Because that's where you start as a believer. You question whether or not something is biblical, and so that just sent me off on a tangent where I just started exploring every aspect of my belief system and what I had considered to be like truth and what I was taught all those years, and came to realize that I just didn't have enough evidence and that my reasoning was faulty. And there was, I realized cognitive bias became very clear among my wife and I. We sort of deconstructed together, almost simultaneously, which was great. Um, so, yeah. And so, not shortly thereafter, when I met you, and at first I was like, reluctant to even come out with like my real voice, being
Yeah,
so.
I will always tell that joke. Guys, I mean that story. When this guy here decided to join us, actually it was thanks to Mariano. That guy is amazing, and I haven't seen him in a while, but well, both of you did a great job work together, and he helped me a lot. So kudos to you, Mariano. You are awesome, and I totally miss you. And when he brought you and both of you decided to start talking about, I don't even remember what was the first topic. I think it was Ateologos, right? Yeah, it was the first episode of Ateologos. In that episode, actually, it was just two guys talking about theology from an atheist point of view. And this guy here, this apostate of mine, told me, I don't want to show my face. Can you change my voice? So I had to take the freaking whole 1 hour of video and go part by part modifying his voice. And I thought, oh gosh, I hope they don't keep doing this, or I will have to spend hours doing this for the rest of my life. And now he has his own show, his own channel, and now he convinced me and dragged me here to start doing this. So it's an amazing story, Mark. It's awesome. I love it.
That's right. And I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be one of these different voices. So I challenge you, if you're listening out there and you're considering some of those tough questions that perhaps you and I, Theo, have had to wrestle with personally, we can help you walk through that and see how we can what we can help clarify. I think that when we met initially, I was I was I was questioning what I had believed about Genesis, and I ran into the Sumerian myths and the tradition that comes out of Mesopotamia. And I was in the middle of learning like pre-flood, like pre-Genesis flood narratives and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? You telling me that Genesis isn't original? That this idea of a flood and the ark and Noah and the whole God approaching him and telling him to build the ark, all that is in Babylonian scripture that predates anything that you consider Hebrew Bible. So I'm sitting there faced with that dilemma, like, what am I supposed to believe about this? Because it's not just that the parallels are there, but just the fact that one came before the other, and so you have to ask yourself, well, was God not aware of what the Sumerians were preaching for thousands of years before already about this? And you're just inspiring this history that somehow matches just almost just like the others. It's like, come on, surely, if God is omniscient and he's all that, surely he could come up with a different way of saying it. But they're just preaching it's a clear rebranding of ideas, which from an anthropologic perspective, it makes sense. Like, that's what we do as people. We evolve in our understanding of the universe, and what we preached and believed all these years is simply the reflection of how a certain group of people over 2,000 years ago saw the world just like their neighbors. And so that's where it started for me, I'd say.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think that probably most likely we're not getting many calls today because, yeah, new show, people, we're just starting. But dear chat, if you want to ask us anything, this is the moment. This is the moment to start questioning beliefs and doing all of that. One question, do you have a TikTok account?
Me myself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, over
Okay.
there, yeah, it's sometimes I've seen a lot of people streaming there. I cannot do it because I only have people in Spanish because, location South America. But maybe one day we can take people from there and bring them here and start debating. That could be an interesting thing to try as well.
Yeah, I'm personally just not, like, since I'm in the US, I need at least, I think, 1,000 followers on TikTok to stream.
Oh, me
or to
too.
even be part of a stream. I'm so small time,
Yeah, that's the difference. I can join different streams. You cannot do that. You have to actually wait until you have the 1,000 in order to be able to join different streams. Who would have thought? Even in that thing, South America is becoming superior to the USA. Huh. In your face, USA, first world country. Ha! First world country with a third world country culture. More and more religious every time.
We're more regulated. That's what it seems like. We're being regulated. You have to
Oh,
be popular to be able to go live on TikTok.
good. Okay. I love Alma, and she's asking us a question in the chat, so let's take her question. What do you guys think about people who say they are atheists but still hold views like not okay to be gay or are anti-abortion? Ooh, what do you think about those people, Mr. Peralta?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, we do need to acknowledge that atheism or theism should only relate to the belief about God, whether or not you accept it. So to get into to mix a conversation of atheism with like this question here, it doesn't necessarily follow. But I think that to honor what Alma is asking, I think that it may be indicative of someone who is in the process of becoming, I guess, deconstructed enough. And I think we're all in that process anyway. So, but yeah, I think that someone who has uh, these types of views just needs to keep on questioning and keep on asking questions and try to get at the bottom of why they have these views that we wouldn't share, perhaps. I don't know, maybe be
Yeah,
a little more specific.
yeah, it's well, you are right, right when you say that being an atheist only means that you don't believe in gods, and anything else that you believe is not related to that. That's why I always joke with, "Oh yeah, you can be a terrible atheist and believe in ghosts, but not in a god." You're not a terrible atheist. You're just an atheist. An atheist is not believing in a god, and that's it. Uh, but I mean, what Alma is saying, yeah, those ideas that you're supposed to leave behind when you start believing in a god, when you stop believing in a god. Well, atheism is not an ideology, so your ideas are going to be the ideas that suit you the best. Atheism is not a way of living. Atheism is not a doctrine, so there is nothing telling you, oh yeah, you should behave this way to be an atheist. And I remember that some time ago I heard the term like a cultural Christian atheist. That is an atheist that doesn't believe in a god but follows all the ideas that Christianity gave them. And ugh, it's just because that's the way of being, I guess. That's how they feel comfortable. And even if they don't their ideas don't agree with me, but well, they are still atheists, just that we disagree on stuff. I love this answer. No, it does make you a bad skeptic to believe in ghosts.
Yeah, you have to
Good.
wonder, like, what is the basis for your rejection of the existence of God, and how does that, where how do you apply that same reasoning to the existence of ghosts or the supernatural? So what would make sense is if you should be consistent. So if you're denying the existence of God based on certain requirement, evidence, burden of proof, things like that, it is the same. It should be the same for the paranormal.
Well,
No,
let me
otherwise you should be cherry picking. That's not like, mm,
yeah, let me defend the worst atheists there, the ones that believe in ghosts and not in gods. Maybe they just never questioned that. Maybe they just be- don't believe because God was never indoctrinated to them. That maybe their families are not believers, so they didn't even have to think about, is there a God? Is there not anything out there that is called a God? But they saw many horror movies and now they are afraid of ghosts. It could happen. I guess that the difference is that when you are a religious person, we tend to realize that, oh yeah, everything is related to God, is connected in this way. So when you stop believing, you realize, hey, all these things were supposed to be connected to God. Now I have realized that the idea of God is extremely silly and illogical. Obviously these other things are also illogical, but of course it's kind of a, you have to go through a lot of stuff to and a huge process to get there. So well,
yeah. And I think another side of that is how, as believers, I think well, it's hard to make a blanket statement because there's a big spectrum of believers. Some that are more fundamentalist than others. I was certainly more of a fundamentalist type, actually. So to me, it's like, well, I don't have enough good reasons to be against, the homosexual community or the LGBTQ plus community, but because the book is against it, I have to trust the book, you
Ah,
know? And it's like we insist on, and then so once you deconstruct from a belief in God who happened to inspired or is thought to have been the inspiration behind the book, then the logical follow up from that would be to just go ahead and give up those beliefs that you held on to specifically or solely because it's a Bible principle and not because it's clear from our culture or because it makes sense.
you said it,
And
my
so
friend.
that's
It could
where
be.
we are. I think that's where where we come in that we can help those that have been holding on to some of these beliefs, but perhaps don't realize why they believe them. Like I was having a conversation with my grandmother yesterday. Like I did not initiate it because I did not want to talk to my grandma about my atheism. Yet she initiated it, so she must have heard something. I hadn't confessed to her. I'd just been sort of like shielding her all these past couple of years because we lost our grandfather and all that. So it's kind of sensitive. I don't know. She's old. She's turning 90 this year, but she asked me and kind of like so why do you? It's like, well, no, like I want to ask you, like, why do you believe that God created the universe? We were talking about that. Why do you believe that? She's like, well, because it says it in the Bible. It's like, okay, so what if I were to give you reasons to not trust what the book is saying because perhaps it's wrong? And would that change anything? And she was just like puzzled, like, I guess so. I guess it just comes down to I accept the Bible as true. So I think there's a lot to that.
Yep, I agree with you. And it's interesting. So it's going to be based on what you base your beliefs on. So you made me think about what my family would be thinking right now. Some of them know that I have this show, so and they have never talked to me about their beliefs. So I guess they would prefer not to start debating those things, which I totally understand. I mean, education and no, not education. Indoctrination or religious ideas are a delicate topic in here. So I understand why they don't want to debate about that. Huh. Please let us know. Let us know if those conversations keep happening on your side. Hmm?
Perhaps that's who you are, or this is the audience that we're looking for. Is people that find themselves in that situation where you just don't feel comfortable having this conversation with a loved one, right? And you do have some personal, not personal, but like deep questions, things that you'd feel vulnerable, talking to someone, perhaps in a context of some form of religious persecution, or like say, for instance, in my context, I'm in Texas, and so I'm surrounded by mostly evangelical fundamentalists. So for me, it's very challenging. Certainly, I take much greater risks having this sort of conversation in my community. So let this be a vehicle, a space where you can feel comfortable. You don't have to use your name. You could just identify yourself with your, I don't know, your favorite action hero. For all I care, I'm just interested in your conversation. So feel free to call us.
Yeah, we are waiting for you, people. Uh, Also, check the private messages. I send you a message that I think you haven't seen because I want to try something. And yeah, dear people, please call us. We want to adjust ourselves to your way of speaking. And don't, well, I'm going to talk more about my personal experience dealing with people who want to talk about their debates. People usually tend to write in the chats, but they don't join and they don't want to discuss. Those are people who are not honest because they believe that if they give a very silly question, that automatically will change the point of view of the other person. But at the same time, they, if they think like that, probably they realize that if they got to get a good answer that makes them think about what they are really doing, well, oh, that's going to that's going to be a problem for them. I have the most amazing question ever in here, and I want to answer this one first because most likely you are going to have a better one second. You're going to have a better answer than me.
Yeah.
Here, the question is: which authors or influences helped you out of your deconstruction journey? In my case, absolutely nothing. It was slow, painful. There was no author I knew about. I was the only atheist that I met that I knew of for years. The first time that I started using the terminology atheist was like 5 years ago, maybe a little, yeah, 5 years ago, when I found about the atheist experience. I didn't even care about the topic. I think I was listening to a song and then it jumped to this. I don't know if it was live or recorded. Maybe it was recorded because it was Majula Hanti with Tracy Harris. And there was a very interesting conversation. I absolutely don't remember what the conversation was about, but it got me hooked. I started listening to it and then I realized, oh, so an atheist is not a person who is against God. An atheist is just a person who doesn't believe in a God, but that would mean I am an atheist. Because I used to believe that an atheist was this person denying God, fighting a God, explaining that God doesn't exist. But nope, atheist is just a person who doesn't say yes when the question is, do you believe in God? Um, so in my case, there was nobody. I do have a book of Carl Sagan. I bought it, I put it on my bookshelf, and I never read it. Then I had to move from that place, and now it's in a box. It's totally new. I wish I had read it, but I didn't. So uh, I'm a terrible follower of others, so I never followed anyone. I don't know if that makes me special or just very silly and worse than anyone else, but that's my story. And you, dear Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a list of books. I took perhaps maybe a not so traditional approach in the sense that I really haven't spent my time reading books like from Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens. Although I did hear a lot of Christopher Hitchens debates and stuff that you can find on YouTube, and just really fell in love with his, everything he says. He was so magnificent. But my approach was more like on the Bible studies kind of academic side. Although I will say that in seminary, ironically, I took an interest in the philosophies, and when I was there, there's a professor that I was fascinated with. That I took an introduction to Trinitarianism by Dr. Douglas Blunt, who now teaches in, I believe, in Southern Seminary in Kentucky. He's out of Notre Dame. He studied under Alvin Plantinga. If you know about Christian philosophers, so this professor studied under Plantinga, and now I'm learning philosophy from him. And I took several courses like logic, intro to philosophy of religion, apologetics, and so I got deep into the philosophies and learned enough about logic to understand things like the law of the excluded middle, law of non-contradiction, and became gradually aware of like, hey, there's something about like logic that needs to make sense with our beliefs. And so, but I had already, read those books before. When I was in my deconstruction, I want to say that a book that was very useful to me was the Introduction to the New Testament by Bart Ehrman, which was the actual text that was assigned as part of the reading of I think it was an intro to New Testament, and so I read that. And but here I became aware of the documentary hypothesis, which shows how it's very likely that Moses was not really an author of these 5 books, but rather at least 4 traditions. So that kind of sent me on a journey of, hey, I've been taught all these years that Moses, the author, right, blah blah blah, the law, but not necessarily. So that book was great. I would recommend, if you're into sort of like a comparative religion approach, this book right here, Kingship of the Gods, has been really useful to me. In fact, you can see how it just looks like crap, like it's falling apart, or how much I've used it. But here I learned, this is from Henry Frankfurt. He is an Egyptologist, and here I learned that the concept of um, the son of the son of the tradition of where I would say that Christianity gets the whole concept of the son inheriting the kingdom from the father, and the whole concept of Jesus as um, the 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 only begotten, the begotten, that whole begotten aspect of his kingship is a concept that is modeled after what Henry Frankfurt would argue is the concept of kingship and the gods in ancient Egypt. So that's really interesting. Another book that was really interesting to me that helped me was this one right here, Mesopotamian Cosmic Geography, by Wayne Horowitz, who is an expert on Syriology and all the Babylonian writing and the scriptures here. I learned how the Babylonians saw the world before the Hebrews. Like, this is the cosmology. In other words, the understanding of the Jews in antiquity of the universe and how it's put together. The idea of tripartite cosmology, and that you have a heaven, you've got the realm of the living and the realm of the dead. It comes from the Babylonians. The concept of the 7 heavens, that's pretty much a Babylonian thing. And so that's where the Hebrews get that understanding. It didn't come from an inspired God who knew better, but rather they got it from people that lived before they lived, that was influential. So read about that if that is interesting to you. Another source that I've enjoyed greatly over the years has been Rabbi Tobias Singer, who's a Jew. He's an Orthodox Jew. He's a rabbi. He teaches online, and he's a minister of sorts. But he works like very unique in that he's been really helpful at helping me understand how the Christian understanding of the Messiah is really not it's not an Old Testament concept. It's been twisted, it's been modified, it's been tweaked in how, and the reasons why, I would say the Jews in the first century had issues or took issues with accepting Jesus as their Messiah, was a lot more than what I think the New Testament is saying. I think that it relates to a lot of deception and mistranslation and tweaking of language, which, given my background in education, I'm able to understand really well, because when he quotes the Hebrew, I'm able to check him and I can see it for myself. And so, but I think he writes for a general audience, so anyone should be able to read his stuff. And then finally, God on Anatomy by Francesca Stravakopoulou has also been a great resource, and in understanding or coming to terms with the understanding that the biblical God, in other words, the God that we would um, that we could define within biblical terms, or if we were to stick to just the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, that God, in whatever that God is incompatible with our modern understanding of who God is in terms of his essence and his makeup. What do I mean by that? Well, it really seems to me that the biblical God is one who is not outside space time, who is not omnipresent, who's not necessarily omniscient, who's most certainly not omnibenevolent, because surely he is tyrannical and very bad at times. And he has a body, and he has got feet. He enjoys the smell of burning carcass. He takes pride in people surrendering to his will. He is a much different God that perhaps most people, or most people grow up thinking, that God is like. So the Bible really teaches a different perspective on who God is, and I think Francesca Stravacapulo does an outstanding job. I mean, look how thick this is,
Um,
at illustrating every aspect of the biblical God and how we got it wrong in Christianity.
cool. So you do have some people that that inspire you.
Yeah.
That's great. I hope we have more questions like those. That was amazing. Okay, and in the meantime, how did you get to become a? I mean, we already said a little bit how you started in the Nuestra Experiencia Atea, but had you done anything before? Why did you start talking with Mariano? What were you doing at the moment when all of this happened?
Yeah, I think I had really hadn't done anything. I had just been uh I kept to myself. I said, I had learned this principle from a professor in seminary, by the way, that because he gave us a warning. I remember he was like, listen, you are gonna read some stuff that you could like start, excuse me, questioning things. But as a rule of thumb, I recommend that you give yourself at least a couple of years where you don't affirm anything and you just read and learn and like dig deep, but don't be so quick to change your views, and until you give it enough thought. And I remember that, so I said, you know what, I'm not so sure that this is, if I'm seeing things the right way, if my skepticism is healthy and it's not based on, like the things that they usually say, demonic oppression, or the devil is working on you and whatever, but rather a healthy one. And give yourself some time. And I gave myself a couple of years, and then when it was just, it's become pretty obvious that there's no going back, there's no returning here, is when I first joined a Facebook community. And and it was, I think it was, I'm not gonna say a name, but it was a Facebook community that was sort of local in Texas. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like people were interested in what I was learning about. Like, people just wanted to talk about other stuff, and I wasn't really that interested. So then when I went out and found you guys, and I was like, yeah, I'm an ex-pastor, and I have all these reasons why we shouldn't be trusting this book, and why it's flawed, and all that. And you took an interest on it, Mariano took an interest on it, and that's was like, okay, these are my people. And
Oh,
so
that's so nice. That's quite
what
cool,
about
I have
you?
to
Did
say.
you do anything? What was your Did you have a pre NEA experience or involvement?
Uh, well, You mean with having my own show? No, this is the first show that I've had. Actually, no. I tried to make some movie critics when I was younger, but I decided to draw. So I didn't want to show my face for reasons. So instead of just doing, it was going to be like this. That I'm a VTuber now, but I was drawing every single reaction. It was so slow that making one short movie took me like a week. I uploaded it to YouTube and it went down immediately because of copyright infringements. So I said, never again. And that was my experience with YouTube before I started this. And well, as I mentioned, I started checking the ACA, and I really enjoyed listening to them. Some things were very interesting. So after a while, I decided to join some of the groups. And during COVID, there was this. I started following Eric Murphy, and he would stream at lunchtime, which was my same lunchtime. And I was like, I'm alone in my place. I have nothing to do. Let's listen to what he has to say. I started asking him questions, and Eric Murphy is very nice, a very kind person. So the way how he started answering made me, kind of saying, I want to be like this guy. I really like him because we all admire Majula Hunting. He's able to answer to anyone in a very straightforward way. But Eric Murphy tries to do the same, but in a more calm way and more in a closer way, like not putting so much distance as Matt does. Well, I started doing that, and for his birthday, I drew something for him, and I sent it to him, and then it was posted. I think I posted it on one of the groups of the ACA where they were wishing him a happy birthday. So I decided, hey, I did this for him, and I posted it there. And one of the admins, Tangil, saw it, and she asked me if I could draw some other stuff for the ACA once in a while. I was extremely happy about that. I did some stuff, some covers and stuff like that for them. And then one magical day, my best friend told me about VTubers. VTuber is a virtual YouTuber, the one that you see in front of you right now. It's me. I'm a VTuber. And he told me about this new technology, how it was working, and how it was everything that I wanted when I did that old YouTube thing with the drawings. This was the same without having to do the drawings. I started doing that, and I decided, okay, let's give the YouTube thing a chance again. But instead of going with the movies, I was going to go with the movies actually, but then I decided, no, a lot of people are doing that. There are too many people, and I was getting too involved with ACA. So I decided, okay, the ACA is the way to go. I would love to do something like them. Besides, Eric Murphy had been talking about how he started his own channel, and I was like, maybe I could try something like that. It sounds interesting. Maybe I could even work with the ACA one day. That would be a dream. And when I told all of this to Tangil, she was the one helping me. She supported me, said that was a good idea. And at the same time, I don't know if you have seen the ACA where they all have this round cup holder that says ACA, Atheist Community of Aston. I was going to have one as well. So Tangil asked me about my address. I gave her my address, and she told me, oh, this is not in the USA. And I was like, nope, we speak Spanish over here. And she asked me if there were programs in Spanish in here. And that's when I realized, hey, I have never seen this in Spanish. And if you go to Nuestra Experiencia Atea, you will see me saying that in the introduction video that I have there. So that's when I realized that there was no content in Spanish about atheism. So I decided to have my own. I have the support of amazing people down there. Daniel helped me, Katie and Kathy. Some people from the ACA gave me their support as well. They taught me the ropes, how to organize some stuff and things like that. And well, then when I started my show, suddenly I realized Manel invited me to the through the ACA. They decided to make a meeting. I had been contacting Darrell Ray already. So when they invited me, I said, okay, let's go. I decided to invite Darrell Ray to the how was it called? It was a big meeting for atheists. And I realized that now there were a lot of atheists in Spanish. So that was a nice experience. It was interesting. And that's when I realized, yeah, maybe this has a future. Maybe this is a good idea to keep doing this. And here I am. Here we are doing now a program in English.
And now you actually have crossed over to the English speaking world well before this. Why don't you tell our audience where have you appeared in what channels?
Oh yeah, well, that's a good idea, Mark. Yeah, when I said, "Oh, it would be a dream being part of the ACA," yeah, they contacted me. Johnny P. Angel saw me, so for some reason, what I was doing, and told me, "Hey, don't you want to come to nonprofits and talk?" I was not aware of how I had heard Matt Dulahanty say many times that the nonprofits were the flagship show of the ACA, but as it wasn't a debate thing, I was not interested in that. When Johnny told me about that, obviously I got excited. It was the ACA. I saw the show. I loved it. That's why I made a cheap copy on my channel, Conversaciones Seculares. Go and watch it. You will like it if you speak Spanish. And yeah, I was extremely happy, extremely nervous. I could barely speak the first time I was there, despite me being with Laura McGee, who was part of the ACA, and she was a good friend of mine. But even with her there, I was extremely nervous. And after that, these amazing people from Skeptic Haven that I have in here talking about polytheist, they invited me as well. I'm not sure how it happened. I think it was because of Cindy, who is another host of the Nonprofits, who is part of both channels. And I have been appearing in both channels once in a while. So I love the guys in both channels. They are so awesome. And that's how it has been, how it happened. And yeah, I guess as you have seen me on those, you decided that, yeah, it could work. And here we are. So yeah, it's been awesome.
So here we are, folks. You know that healthy skepticism and all this it has no barriers, including language barriers. For the same reasons that people that are in other parts of the world rejecting the God proposition in the U.S. as well as other parts of the world. I mean, we're united in that way, and I think that's really wonderful.
Wonderful. Mark, we have reached the 1 hour. We can say that we did it. We got the first hour. But before start saying goodbye, Alma has a wonderful question for us. I'm going to read it so you can start answering it. Talking about fear of hell, did any of you struggle with that while deconstructing?
That's a really good question.
Okay, I will start while you think about it. Call me egocentric, but I love religion so much that I was sure that I was a good person. So of course I was going to go to heaven. Why would I be afraid of hell? I was never afraid of hell because of that. I mean, Apocalypse, the book of Revelation, sorry. I saw the drawings and they were creepy, but I saw them more like a horror movie rather than something real. Like, ooh, why did they imagine this? And as I was starting to study parts of the Bible, I was always sure that one day we will get to Revelations and I will understand all of that. Surprise, surprise, we never got to Revelations. But yeah, I was good. I was sure I was going to hell in my mind, so I was never afraid of hell. And when I stopped believing, it was like, okay, hell is not real. It's so silly the idea. Hell is even sillier. Why do people? How can people get scared because of this? So for me, it was very shocking when I saw that a lot of people suffers PSD, the post-traumatic disorder, PTD, post. Yeah, that thing, because of their fear to hell and that they are afraid of hell. I was not afraid of hell. So call me egocentric if you want to. It's cool. And you, sir?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure. I think that I had already sort of given up my beliefs on like the paranormal before I give up on the God belief altogether. I think many of us sort of become like a bit of a deist uh, for some time. Mine just didn't last very long. I think that I had such a high view of Scripture when I was a believer than when I finally accepted that, hey, this is not a reliable text and that is not teaching historical truths. Although there might be some things that they got right, but certainly like the most important ones are, it seems like they're just made up. And so I had sort of given up. I personally, I suffered from, I still do sometimes, from sleep terrors. And so for a long time, I thought that I was being approached by demons at night that were trying to um, terrorize me, And so when I learned of the sleep disorder, where there is an actual more probable, more scientifically, more reasonable explanation behind the things that I was experiencing, such as being choked while at sleep, such as the sensation of falling off my bed, levitating, and all that stuff, have a scientific explanation, completely unrelated to demons persecuting me or something. And I learned that to just sort of breathe through the experience whenever I had an episode. And I won't get too much into what night terrors are or sleep paralysis. But that when I realized that, hey, I just need to let it pass, and it has nothing to do with demons or spirits, it brought peace to me. And so I realized, hey, this is not true. And so I had already given up on that, and also the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew text, doesn't really teach a heaven or hell type of theology. There's, from them, is more of like, you just die, you go back to where you came from, and there's not really an afterlife from like a Jewish Bible. That's more made up by the Christians, and that's an evolution of that. And we can get into it at some point. And so for me, it was an easy, I don't really care, but yeah.
Cool. Well, Mark, we did it. 1 hour, 7 minutes. We reached our first goal. We had our first show. I feel great about this. I hope you do as well. I think it's time to start wrapping up. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds really good. I want to thank you, those that already have liked the show. And I have seen an increase in subs, so this is really exciting. I'd say it's very healthy, very indicative of perhaps a good outcome. So thank you for being a part of this. Also, those of you that joined us live the very first time here at Belief Battles.
Great. So with that, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with us in here, and I guess I'll see you soon. Okay. Let's help each other. Skeptic Heaven, if you like, guys, if you like this type of shows, Skeptic Heaven here, they are going to have their own full show in 3 hours. So yeah, you can go and watch that. And thank you. Oh, you started the video already. Sorry, but yeah, go and check those guys. They are amazing. Thank you, people. See you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.
Hello and welcome to the all-new call-in show, Belief Battles, a weekly show ready to take your calls about religion, atheism, and secularism, featuring co-hosts, atheist and international VTuber Teo el Ateo, and Mark Peralta, an ex-evangelical pastor, now atheist. So without further ado, Belief Battles.